To political developments now, the ANC's National Working Committee is discussing the fallout from the Phala Phala report. It is meeting at Nasrec in Johannesburg after yesterday's National Executive Committee meeting was postponed. Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa emerged from the gathering. This is the first time he has spoken publicly since the Phala Phala report was released. He had this to say earlier.
It is up to the National Executive Committee, to which I am accountable to take whatever decision. So that's all I have to say today on this matter. Any other matter on this will be communicated at a later time and stage. So I would like to appeal to you all that we leave it there. And all I'd like to hear you say, have a good afternoon, Mr. President. We'll see you around again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. No, thanks. Thank you very much.
I'll see you around.
The president there just engaging with the media on the sidelines of that meeting. Political analyst Rebone Tau joins us to share her perspective on what's been happening and how this all might play out. Rebone, good evening to you and welcome. And the one thing we can always rely on you for is to give us some insight, some of the things that we're not hearing that might be easily available in the public domain. What are your thoughts on, let's start with how you saw the president present there, seemingly outwardly confident, but certainly a lot of tumult and turmoil inside.
No, absolutely. I mean, yesterday morning I was speaking to some who are close within that CR22 faction, saying that they've actually prepared the president for this NWC and NEC meeting, based on what transpired on Friday, because they know that obviously there will be some hard questions to him from the other opposing faction within the ANC.
I would like for you to just kind of, again, we've been in this historical moment, because it is historical in and of its own self, in two other iterations, former President Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma. When you consider how things played out in terms of the lines shifting, the support or the lack thereof for this or that position really begin to sharpen in these moments, what do you think could be happening in the way that the conversations in the NWC and the NEC are being shaped and formed?
I think if you look at both former presidents of the ANC, Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma, they had difficulties, like when Thabo Mbeki was running for his third term, and Jacob Zuma, in his first term, going to Mangaung, was a very smooth ride. President Ramaphosa finds himself in a very difficult position as he's gunning for the second term, which is not common in the ANC, because your first term becomes a smooth transition going into your second term. You don't have that power struggle. So obviously in the NWC, there are those who are opposing him that will definitely fight. But if you look at also in the most recent months, he's been winning most of the debates according to factional politics. The CR22 faction seems to be winning in most cases. But what will be different about this one? For example, I've been speaking to some NEC members who don't belong into any factions, and they are saying lessons must be learned from the Jacob Zuma Nkandla saga, and they don't want to see that moving forward.
And that's really intriguing, isn't it? Because there's a kind of different lens and a different type of pressure and expectation of a moment like this. Because we've had two iterations that tangentially are similar to what's happening right now. Jacob Zuma, as we know, kind of forcing even our laws to be refined around how we treat or approach issues around potential impeachment of the head of government and the head of state. Just share with us why this moment seems to be kind of more heavily laden and burdened with expectation against the backdrop of the ANC not being able to have a president, barring Mandela, that saw out their full terms.
I mean, one of the things I think the ANC suffers from, it's what we call succession plan, and that's why it is in this crisis that it finds itself, because I mean, you look at how President Ramaphosa comes in 2012, as the deputy president to the then President Jacob Zuma, when Kgalema, who himself only people knew at the conference that he's available for that conference. So I think since the era of Nelson Mandela, the ANC has been finding it very difficult to have a succession plan, to plan for the future. And right now, I mean, the president where he's sitting, those who are supporting him is for their own selfish interests. They have nothing to do with the ANC. They are looking out for themselves.
Just share with our viewers why you think that's so.
I mean, you know, being a minister, because when you become a minister, it's the prerogative of the president. And so that you have people that are close to his faction, your Inogodongo and Agwaremantashe, Zizikota, they know that the battle lines are drawn within the ANC. So if this man goes, and for example, I mean, the dark horse is Didi Mabuza, who seems to be quiet and no one knowing his understanding. You know, I was listening to one of the former leaders of the ANC, Matthews Phosa, you know, speaking in one of the interviews, and I was laughing, you know, after I listened to him, how he was defending the president. But if you understand Mpumalanga historical politics, you'll know that Matthews Phosa and Didi Mabuza never got along. So obviously, most are also fearing that between now and maybe a post-conference, the interim president will not is not a favor of the moment within the two factions. There's the other reality that the ANC is facing, because he seems to be standing alone, the current deputy president, when you look at the factional battles within the ANC.
Well, before we telescope to tomorrow and your thoughts on what the outcome is likely to be, Rebone, is it really as parochial as you say? These selfish interests on personal opportunity and careerism inside the ANC?
You know, you must read the Morogoro letter by Christian in the 8. He speaks about the career politicians, and that's what we have seen over the years. I mean, Gwede Mantashe, for an example, he was the Secretary General during the Zuma era. He was at the center of making sure that Zuma is defended at all times. Even now, if you look at what is happening, he's at the center of protecting the current president. And some might argue that, you know, there's issues of coal, you know, energy. We saw that the policy conference made recommendations that ESCOM should go to energy. So there's a lot that is at play here. So unfortunately, the ANC is going to go through a difficult time, because people are more focused on their own interests more than the organization itself.
All right, so tomorrow, D-Day, the day a decision is expected from the NEC after direction from the NWC. How do you see this playing out?
I don't think that the NWC, at the level they're engaging, they will be sober and do a proper analysis and assessment of what this means for the ANC going to 2024. Because those, whether close to the president, are inward looking. I think those who are opposing the president are too emotional. You know, I was listening to some of the interviews over on Friday again, you know, how some of these NEC members who are opposing President Ramaphosa, how they were speaking. You can see that emotions are touched. And now when you engage, when their emotions are touched, you're not able to listen to each other. You're not able to be tolerant of each other. It's more about a game of numbers, you know, we'll show them who are in charge and so forth, you know. And there was a deliberate effort, obviously, from also those that are opposing the president to deliberately also collapse the meeting, you see, because also that means that they will be also lobbying those who that they know that are not belonging to any faction going into this meeting tomorrow of the National Executive Committee.
By all accounts, it sounds still, you know, messy and chaotic, despite their best intentions, one would say. Rebone, if you can, we've been so seized with this moment, looking at it so closely in all of its dimensions. What is a piece of the story you think we're missing?
I think what people are not speaking about is the illicit financial flows. It's a big problem. And this money might be part of that, illicit financial flows, because no one knows how this money comes from. Because illicit financial flows talks about corruption, tax of invention. We don't know from which country this money is from. Was it stolen from any government? So these are things that actually we should know, because we can't say we condemn corruption happening in this country when we don't know where this money left from which country. You know, that can be taxpayers' money in any other country in the world.
A week and a night of discovery, I think, ahead for the party and consequently the country. Rebone Tau, thank you very much for joining us. Rebone Tau, political analyst, sharing their views on the state of play inside the party and what expectations we might have out of tomorrow's resolution at the NEC meeting.